Hello, and welcome to the Great Northern Game Night. I am your host, Tony,
And I'm Matt.
and we're here to talk to you about video games, basically.
Pretty much. Yeah.
This is the inaugural episode, kind of. This is kind of like a test run for us. See what we can do here. See if we can get things going naturally, get a good flow going. We're going to aim for between 30 minutes to an hour. I don't want to put a restriction on it. I don't want to say it's going to be, 30 minutes on the dot every week because I kind of want it to flow naturally. So we're just going to see where we go with that. The main topic of this week's podcast is going to be The Witcher 3, which came out about a week ago. I believe we both put about 30 hours into it. I'm pretty close to 30 hours.
I think I'm up there. Yeah, I've got about. I think it's 28 or 29. It's about 30 for me too.
I think I'm further in the story than you because I haven't been doing a ton of side stuff yet.
Yeah, no, you definitely are. I can tell you that for sure. I know, and we're not really spoiling anything, but you've finished with the stuff at Novigrad, I believe.
Yep.
And I'm not done. I'm only partway through, so yeah, you definitely got an edge on me there.
I've done I've been doing main quests and side quests, but I haven't been going out of my way to the question marks on the map to do bonus things like hunting missions and finding hidden treasure or whatever. It's really good so far. The first thing that I wanted to touch on for The Witcher 3 is I wanted to talk about the storyline because I can tell you right now, I've played both of the other Witcher games. Matt has not played. He's played a little bit. You played a little bit of the first one, I think.
I've started it and I like it. I just
the combat
haven't had the urge to go
weird.
back. It's it's different. Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, even as somebody who has played the first two Witcher games, there's a whole lot of story threads in this that are completely they call back to the other Witcher games and they give you no backstory whatsoever. They just expect you to know it. They basically throw you in they think they've played the first two games, but it's really weird that there's a lot of stuff they don't even give you a recap on. You'll go into
it's a little weird for me, yeah.
They'll be saying character names, and it's who is this? Why are they relevant at all?
Well, I did run into that, and I know you and I were talking about this before we started the podcast, and this was our plan where you were gonna play the game already kind of knowing the previous game's stories, and I was gonna play. Well, we didn't decide this at the time, but eventually we did. that I wasn't going to bother playing the first two games just to see how easy it would be for a newcomer like me to actually understand the story. And the story in the game I kind of get. I don't know who the Nilfgaardians are. I have no clue what's going on with them. They just seem like a bunch of snobs, and that's all I got out of that.
You won't know who anyone is, really. They talk about they talk about Temeria, they talk about Redania, they talk about Nilfgaard. What are these places? They're completely irrelevant to this game right now.
I had no idea.
You're in a place, and it's run by Nilfgaardians, and that's it.
Yes.
They're the only people around, and then the people who lived here. But even I don't know. The place that we're in, the first place is White Orchard, which is just it's basically the tutorial area. But Velen, the first place that you go to, was this part of Redania before it got overtaken by Nilfgaard? Was it part of Temeria? Are they the same? I don't remember. These are things I don't even remember.
When I was in fucking Velen, I think is the place.
Yeah.
And I'm in there, and I know there's this dude Radovid, who's I guess he had some kind of presence in previous games, and he's a big important dude now. But I'm
King
playing
of
through these
Redania.
games. King of Redania.
Not that that's relevant at all in Witcher 3, but
it was weird. Well, going through this game rather, I was talking to NPCs, and I keep hearing people, as you walk past people in towns, they have their conversations, ambient conversation. And they keep mentioning Redanian guards and Redanian soldiers. This is not a place that's been mentioned to me at all until this point. I have no clue what they're talking about. And something kind of funny in retrospect happened when I was still in White Orchard. And for those of you who haven't played the game, at the start, there's this tutorial area. And you are on horseback, just riding along a road and talking to this other dude, Vesemir. He's a fellow Witcher. And one of the things that Geralt says to him when they're discussing this war is, we have a side? As if there's some kind of alignment with the Witchers. And I was like, man, that's totally what I'm feeling, because I don't know what's going on here. I don't have a side. I'm just doing my thing. Yeah.
It's I'll tell you right now, there's a whole lot of stuff that's just not very well explained. So I'll give you a quick crash course in The Witcher, and it's hard because these are adapted from novels. These
Yes, that I knew.
the games are adopted from novels, and there's a lot of them actually. So there's a lot of backstory you're missing out on. But the biggest issue here is this is probably, I think, The Witcher's biggest shortcoming so far. It's not even anything gameplay related. It's this weird, like, they give you no backstory. Even for people who've played the first two games, if you haven't played them in a while, you don't know what's going on. There's no refresher. So in the tutorial area, Geralt is reunited with Yennefer of Vingenberg, which, for somebody who has not played the first two games, you have no fucking clue who that is.
No idea.
So in the first game, you play as Geralt, and you have amnesia. Something has happened to you, and you can't remember anything. You know that you're a Witcher, and that's about it. Which, also, I would like to make a good point. They don't even explain what a Witcher is in this game. So there are witches in the game. Sorceresses are called witches. You would think that a Witcher has something to do with a sorceress or a witch, right? No, you're completely wrong. Witchers hunt monsters. That's what a Witcher is. But they don't explain that in the game.
Yeah,
so
they're basically bounty hunters.
you have no idea, like, who you even are. Like, what does a Witcher do? Do I hunt witches? Am I friends with witches? No, it's nothing to do with witches whatsoever. So Yennefer is the sorceress that you were in love with before you had amnesia.
And this is before the first Witcher
This
game.
is before the first Witcher game. In the first Witcher game, the first Witcher game doesn't even start right when you wake up from having amnesia. It's like a little bit into that.
He's already kind of back doing his thing.
Yeah,
He's back at Karamor.
but you still have all these memories that are gone. And the first Witcher was especially bad about it because your character has amnesia, so these characters would show up, and they're like teasing you with backstory that you don't get in the game. So like this character will come up and they'll be like, "Hey, Geralt, it's me, buddy. You remember me?" And you're like, you pick the speech option and you're like, no, not really. Sorry, I have amnesia. And they're like, whatever. And then they just leave. Like, how does your character know this person? There's no explanation. And you don't
I almost think that's kind of clever though, because when they're doing the game like that and they're coming at it from that perspective, yeah, you're running into all these people that you as a player have no idea.
Yeah.
But then Geralt doesn't either. So you're kind of, I don't want to say it's immersive, but it almost makes you feel like, yeah, I'm just as confused as this guy is. I have no clue what's going on. So I think it's a little more forgivable for The Witcher 1 to do that. But for the third game, it's, at this point, like, come on.
Where's the explanations for anybody
I don't know who Dandelion is. I do now, but I had no idea. And then at one point, Girl's like, oh, I guess I have to go rescue Dandelion again.
Who? What?
Like, okay.
Who's this person and why is he important to me? But it's like, so in the first one you don't solve your amnesia problem. So in the second one you don't either. It's between the second and third one that he gets his memory back apparently. So that, like, I don't want to like cover the entire storyline, but so Yennefer was missing for a long time. She's being hunted by the Wild Hunt, which is another story thread that's completely unexplained and no backstory or recap is given on them. And I'm going to be honest with you, I played all three games and I think they're a representation of death. They come from like some weird other realm and they're like specters and they hunt people down and like capture them and take them back to their realm and turn them into riders in the Wild Hunt. And they're drawn to magical power, I think. So they hunt sorceresses down pretty much primarily.
Yeah.
And in the first game you learn that Yennefer was someone you loved. You have to relearn that, and then you learn that she was taken by the Wild Hunt. And then that kind of just like, fucks off somewhere and we don't worry about it again until the third game. So the game opens with you reunited with Yennefer and you're like, okay, this is cool, I guess. And then it just starts throwing these characters at you in the tutorial. So, like, White Orchard, I would call that the tutorial area, but it's not like, we're not talking like a guided tutorial. This is just a really small area to get you started on the game. There's, like, quests around. It's not like a hold your hand type of tutorial. You have to go and find the quests and do the quests.
It's still a little open area.
It's a really small area. But there's an actual tutorial that you can play, which, even if you played the second Witcher, I would recommend it because the game is a little bit different, and also the combat system is It's strange enough that it's hard to remember if you haven't played The Witcher 2 like super recently. Um, the combat system in The Witcher is difficult. Like we'll talk about that in a little bit. But so it takes you into this tutorial area and it just starts throwing all these characters at you. You're in Kaer Morhen. Where's that? I don't know what that place is, but you're there. So you have to go.
So you know.
You have to go train Ciri. Well, who's that? I don't know, but let's go find her because we have to train her. Let's go downstairs. She's with Vesemir. Who the fuck's that? So you go downstairs and there's this old guy sleeping in a chair. You're like, I guess that's Vesemir or something. You go to the balcony and you look out and Ciri's down there training on the walls. You're like, who the fuck is Ciri? Like, she looks like Geralt. She's got like white hair and like the same colored eyes as Geralt. You're like, oh, well, that must be Geralt's daughter. Unfortunately, what you don't know because the game has not told you yet is that Witchers are sterile, so it's not Geralt's daughter. So later in the tutorial, you meet Ciri's father, who has black hair and looks absolutely nothing like her. And he's an emperor from Nilfgaard. But who's Nilfgaard? We don't know. Who's this emperor? I don't know. He knows Geralt, though, so maybe I should know. Like, these two are acquainted, clearly. We start meeting all these other characters that Geralt knows. There's like a guard in the Nilfgaard area, and he's like, "Oh, Geralt, it's been a long time." And it's like,
Yeah.
"Who are you?"
Actually, meeting the Emperor, that was one of those moments that really threw me off because, you get taken to the little steward guy, and he's like, "All right, well, you have to do this, and you have to dress this way, and we have to shave you." And
you
have
get to
be
play
proper."
like dress up.
And and the whole time I'm like, "All right, so I'm going to talk to this Emperor." That's my whole scenario. I didn't know anything else that was going on. I was like, "All right, he's an important person. I have to go see him." And I wanted to be diplomatic when I went up to say hi to this guy, so I bowed. And then after we started to talk to him, and he sends all his little friends away, and it's just me and him talking.
He
and he says something like,
you.
"Oh, I didn't think you bowed to other men." And then apparently it turns out, just from the things Geralt was saying to him, that they knew each other and didn't like each other very much. And this is something that, for other things and other characters, sometimes they do drop little hints that Geralt knows even who these people are. But this is one that totally blindsided me. I don't know. It threw me off.
It's an especially bad problem with characters that Geralt knows well. Characters that you would know from the first two games if you played them. Like, you're in Novigrad. You're doing Novigrad stuff. There's gonna be like some spoilers, by the way, if you hadn't gathered that already from me basically outlining exactly what happens in the tutorial cutscene. So you go to Novigrad and you meet Dandelion, who is a bard and a friend of Geralt's, and you also meet Zoltan Shive, who is a dwarf and a friend of Geralt's. And that one they expect you to know because Zoltan is a pretty big character in both of the other Witcher games. So basically you run into him and he just walks up and he's like, "Hey, what's happening?" And they like talk about old times. They're like, "Remember that time back in fucking who knows where, the middle of nowhere, when we did the thing? Yeah, that was great." And it's like, this isn't how you tell a story. Like, I like the story in The Witcher 3, but that's because I know a lot of the plot points that are happening from the other games, but there's so many references to the old games, to story that you don't even know, like to the novels and stuff. It's almost impossible to follow as somebody who's played the first two games, and I imagine it's completely impossible to follow for somebody who is only now playing their first Witcher game.
Well, yeah, I mean, I could definitely agree with that. I know for sure there's a lot of those little references, pretty much all of them actually, that I just kind of, they go over my head. I have no idea who this person is or what that event was or this war or whatever. That being said, once they establish for me that, okay, there's these two nations and they're at war, things are happening, and then there's the Wild Hunt and they're looking for this girl and you're trying to find this girl because she's your daughter, sort of. When it gets to that, when it gets to that point, then I could kind of be like, okay, all right, that's not a terribly complicated story. I can follow along now. I know what's happening.
Yeah, there's a
so from here on, the actual story of just The Witcher 3, that's okay. I'm okay with that. I got that. Yeah.
But it has all these weird callbacks. Like you'll run into people. I ran into some character that said he was from some place and he was a priest, and I was like, "Oh, do you know a girl named Shawnee?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, she's fine. You know her. She's getting into trouble." And I know her because she's in the first Witcher, but nobody else is gonna know her. There's no reference to her outside of that. There's no frame for you to understand. Like, oh, yep, she's up to her old tricks, and you're like, what? I don't know what that means though.
What's happening?
So, like, that's the shortcoming that I found is it's a really heavily story-based game, and I will give it credit. You can follow the contained Witcher 3 story pretty well. It basically, like, a lot of the stuff you don't need to know the old stuff for, because you're like, you're helping a guy hunt down a drowner or something.
Yeah,
Or
and I mean that's pretty straightforward.
you're going to Novigrad to talk to a sorceress, and you know that sorceresses are in hiding right now. You don't know that sorceress has been Geralt's love interest for the last 2 games, and then he dumped her when he got his memory back for his old girlfriend. But
Yeah. That doesn't come to light until you've already finished the
you
first
kind
mission,
of
by
learn
the way.
that. Yeah, you kind of learn it a little bit.
Detail there. Yeah.
So that's the one thing that I've noticed, and I noticed while I was playing it, I was like, Matt is going to be so fucking lost right now because I don't even know what's going on right now. So you run it, and then it just keeps bringing back like these like fan service characters. It's like, hey, remember this guy from The Witcher 2? Here he is. Like when you're meeting the Emperor, you're getting shaved, and this general for the Emperor's army comes in, and he's like some guy that Geralt knew. And basically, what happens is you can simulate a Witcher 2 game save, and if you choose to do
Yes.
that. This guy comes in and he starts asking you, like, do you remember this thing that happened? And you get to pick, like, oh, right, well, this is what happened, or, oh, this is what happened. And this is you simulating choices that you made from the first 2 games.
Did
So-
they do that for me? I mean, I guess they must have if I didn't import a save, because you could do that. You could import data from previous
Did
saves,
it?
I think.
There was a pop-up. I don't know if you clicked it. It was like simulate Witcher 2 save or something like that.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that, and I think I probably didn't click it.
If you didn't click it, then
Yeah,
you
well,
might
it
not
wouldn't have been
gotten
relevant
that
to me
part.
anyway, because I don't know what the story is in those.
So now
games.
I'm
I have no
curious,
bias
though.
towards those, so.
Yeah, now I'm actually curious. So did that general come in at all while you were getting shaved by the guy?
I know a guy came in while I was getting shaved, but this is like over a week ago. I don't remember what he asked me, but he
for
did
me-
come in to say something.
Yeah.
I don't remember if he was interviewing me about what happened. But,
So for me, he
can't remember.
basically grilled me on like what I remember happening from major events in the first 2 Witcher games, and it was like a thinly veiled like pick which choice your character made. So like he was like, how did you get into? There's a city that I don't even remember the name of it, but there's a city in The Witcher 2 that you go into, and you either side with Vernon Roach, who was the human commander for King Foltest of Temeria, who you don't know at all because
Hey, people talked about that guy. In The Witcher 3.
he's dead. He dies in the beginning of The Witcher 2. But spoiler alert. So
Thanks.
you either side with him or you side with the Scoia'tael, which they're elves, and they're a
Yes.
specific like guerrilla warfare section of elves that go to war with humans because they don't like each other. Humans don't like non-humans in general. But so he'll be like, so how'd you get into this town? And you can pick like either, oh, I went in with Roach, or oh, I was with the Scoia'tael. So it's basically just like he's asking for what happened, but it's really just a thinly veiled. You get to pick your choices so that everything kind of falls into place.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he's a character from the other game, and you just like you don't know who this guy is or why he's relevant.
Well,
And speaking of that,
I can't remember if it was an interview, but yeah, I don't know.
you might not have gotten it if you chose not to simulate a save. It might have like a default state of things that happens. But
Yeah, well, I would have to. Yeah.
I don't know if you've gotten to the point in Novigrad yet where you meet Vernon Roach.
I couldn't tell you. Well, I know. Okay, that's not fair. I can tell you that a person by that name has not appeared in my game so far.
Okay,
That
so
I can confirm.
there's a point where he's like, because he still believes he can bring back his place, Temeria, where he's from, because they got wiped out basically by Nilfgaard when their king died. But so he's got like this resistance faction living in this cave outside of Novigrad, and you go there and like. It's another case of like his like second in command steps out and like she like talks to you or something, and he's like, oh yeah, she's still the same girl that she was, and it's like, okay, what kind though, because I don't know. So it's got this weird like it's self-contained, but there's also so much stuff that you just can't follow if you don't know anything about the basic storyline, like.
Yeah.
And we're both not done with the game. I've moved on to the Skellige Islands, which I think is the last area, like the last big open world area, because it's open world, but not really.
Well, it's like oh man, I'm trying to think of another game that has a similar system. It's like a bunch of smaller open worlds tied together. So you have all these different areas, and then each area is, except for White Orchard, they've all been pretty big so far.
Yeah.
And actually, it says that Novigrad and Velen on the big main map are two different areas, but in fact they're not.
Yeah, they're
you can
connected.
Just ride your horse between them, no problem.
The
But
Skellige
it's all
Islands,
these little areas.
I will tell you, are huge. There's 7 islands. And, like, my biggest complaint about the Skellige Islands so far is when you open the world map, you can only zoom it out so far. You can't even see one of the full islands. So, like, if you're looking for a specific island, you have to drag the map around with your mouse and, like, hope that you find the island you're looking for. There's no way to get, like a zoomed out full picture of all the islands. But I will tell you, it's not quite open world, and I do have a complaint there. I found a spot, I think it was in White Orchard, but I assume it's in Velen and stuff too.
Yeah.
I went out too far to a place that was not intended for me to go to, I guess. And
Right.
it said, you are at the world's end, turn back. And no, I'm not. I can look in front of me, and I can see tons of world in front of me. I'm not at the end of the world. I'm at the end of the game world. And I
Yeah.
guess I admire the fact that they didn't put an invisible wall in there. I didn't see what happened if you stayed out there for too long. I don't know if it's like World of Warcraft where you get like fatigue and die eventually. But
There's got to be something like that because they can't let you walk forever. Right?
but like put some mountains or something. Like just put a mountain up that I can't get around. And I'll
do you
be
want
happy.
that, though? I mean, would it make more sense to have the whole game kind of encapsulated in this box, like a physical box?
I feel like there are better ways around it than to tell me I'm at the end of the world when I can see that I am very clearly not at the end of the world.
Yeah,
I can see like rendered trees and mountains way off in the distance. This is not the end of the world. I'm sorry to tell you. But that's the only real complaint that I've had there. Travel is really nice.
Yeah.
I really like the fact that you can basically autopilot your horse on these roads.
I couldn't get that to work. Like I noticed it working a little bit. I'd go into a curve on a road, and my horse would kind of, sort of go along with it, but it would never stay on the roads. I would always
Now,
have to correct for it.
I'll tell you.
Maybe I was doing it wrong though.
I'll tell you. You probably were, and I was going to tell you about this, but I wanted to save it for the podcast.
Okay.
If you are holding W, it doesn't work. When it says "don't steer your horse," it means don't touch any of the fucking buttons. Only hold Shift.
Okay,
That's how it works.
Being an idiot, apparently, I assumed that if I took my finger off the move forward button, I would stop moving forward.
Well,
So that I just kind of kept doing that.
yeah, I mean, I'm an idiot too, clearly. I figured, it said don't steer your horse, so I figured, you don't steer forward. That's not how steering works. You steer
Right.
left and right.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was
That's
like,
what I was
well, I won't press left and right, and I'll be fine, right? No, you don't press anything. You just hold Shift, and you'll cling to the road. And it's still like
Yeah.
it can't really handle hairpin turns very well. And
Yeah, but like for most of the main highways, so to speak. I
you
guess
do
it's-
have to. You'll have to adjust a little bit. Like if you come to a fork in the road, it's just gonna fucking pick a random direction to go down that fork. So if you want to go the other way, you gotta like press A. It is. I will say that it's pretty intuitive. As soon as you let go of the steering, it hooks you back onto the road.
Yeah. That was, I think, my only complaint with the controls, though, of this game. Just the horse autopilot thing. And, well, horseback riding in general is okay. It was all right. And I like the sprinting thing. They give you a good amount of stamina. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that bugged me about the movement was that when you're out of combat, you seem, whether you're on your horse or on foot, actually, you seem like you're a little bit sluggish in how quickly the controls respond to you. But I know it's kind of a thing where they can only have it two ways. They could either have it so you can spin Geralt on a dime with your mouse, right?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's better responsiveness, but it looks ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Or they can make the animations nice and natural at the expense of, the tightness of the controls. So I get it. It just seemed like because when you're in combat, you can dodge and roll. You can do anything you want, and it's great. I love it. I love it so much. But they just out of the combat, the movement was kind of a little shy found.
It has that thing where it doesn't want to be unrealistic in its movements. So like if you go to turn left, you don't just turn left. Your character doesn't just like spin to the left. He takes like a step with his right foot and pivots. So
he'll actually turn.
If you want to turn left, if you're standing right on the edge of a cliff and you're like, I want to turn left, you can't. You will walk off the cliff because you'll take that step and just slip off the cliff.
That happens with boats too. Because
Yeah.
you got sailing in this game, right? And you don't spin in a boat, which you really don't. I mean, it makes sense. It's realistic. I mean, but if you're parked right against a shore, and you're like, oh shit, I'm too close. I'm gonna hit the shore and bust my boat. You try and turn away. Not happening. You go right into it. You gotta actually back up. I thought that was actually kind of cool, even though it is a bit frustrating when you fuck up and you don't stick the landing properly. But yeah, it was good.
I haven't really used the boats that much, I gotta admit. And honestly, I don't use the horse as much as I'd like to. The fast travel is just so much more convenient. And
Yeah.
it's kind of nice because you have to find a signpost, so you can't just fast travel from anywhere. So you do have to do some exploring.
Well, did you know? Wait, hang on, I gotta stop you there. Did you know that boats are also fast travel? And I don't mean the sailing; like they actually serve the fast travel function that signposts do.
Yes, but
Okay.
I've only used a boat a little bit, and it was you've like pretty much finished Velen, right?
Oh yeah.
I used the boats for that island mission where you have to go to that tower in that island.
Yeah.
And for anybody that doesn't know what we're talking about, just play the game or something.
Yes. Should play it because it's good. And
It's
we'll get to
irrelevant,
that,
but
yeah.
there's a little island that you sail to, and I was gonna use the boat fast travel option, but I didn't have any like locations unlocked. The only location I had unlocked for fast travel in a boat was that island, which I was on. So you can fast travel from anywhere in the boats, but you still like. I think you have to sail a boat somewhere to get its fast travel point. You can't just like if a town has a boat fast travel point, you don't get it from walking into the town. I think you have to be in a boat to unlock that travel point.
I can't say for sure because I think I've only discovered one that I saw on the actual map, but you might be right because that's how the signposts work. So, yeah, I do like that the boats act as like a modular signpost for that system because wherever you park the boat, it's still there when you finish your quest or whatever. You go back and then you fast travel.
I do like that the boats don't despawn because so I would fast travel to that island because the quest chain takes you to that island like 4 or 5 times. So I'd fast travel to the island, I'd finish the quest there, and then I didn't want to go back out to the signpost because I would have to kill a bunch of like rot fiends or whatever. Which, by the way, the rot fiend is the most fucking annoying enemy in the game.
Yeah,
by far. I would rather fight any enemy than the fucking rot fiend. So I would avoid that signpost outside of the tower. So I would run over the wall of the tower, jump in the boat that spawns there right next to the tower, and sail to that town that's right to the north. So there were like 6 boats packed into this tiny little bay area in that town because I would go to the island, sail the boat to that town, jump out, use that signpost to fast travel. Then I would fast travel back to the island, take the boat, park it in the same area. So I just have like this congestion of boats in that town. I can't remember the name of the town, but like that whole little bay, there's like an inlet that goes in there, and it's just packed with boats. And they're all like half damaged because I have to like squeeze them through the other boats to get in there. But like, I don't care. I'm never going to sail them again.
Yeah. Until you need to go back to that island.
Well, I can fast travel there. Until I need to leave the island. Then I'll be sailing. That's the only time I've sailed the boats.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to mess around with them some more. I imagine I will be doing quite a bit more sailing on the Skellige Islands. So.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And I have to say, very, very nice attention to detail, CDPR on the boats. It actually looks like the sails, when you're turning, they actually tack into the wind, which is awesome. It's not just a fixed thing. You have the mast, and with the one sail and it turns, it billows according to the way the wind happens to be blowing at the time. It's fucking awesome to watch. It's actually really relaxing sailing in this game.
On that same note, fuck you for your attention to detail, CDPR. You have to walk to a very specific spot on the boat to start piloting it.
Yep.
You have to be on the right side, and you have to basically knock your knees up against the seat.
You gotta squeeze in there, yeah.
Like, you can't
really
be,
tight.
like, a couple steps away from it. It won't let you get in the boat. And I spent like a minute running around this boat. I was like, maybe I'm on the wrong side. No, there's not even a seat on this side. I'm gonna go back to this side. I was like, what am I? I'm doing something wrong here. And you have
for those who haven't played the game, these boats are not large boats. They're very small.
Yeah,
they're like 10 feet long.
You don't really have a lot of room to run around.
There's nowhere to explore on these things. They're just fucking picky.
Yeah, it's like a tiny little hitbox that you have to be in to get in the boat. It's easy to climb into the boat, but to actually pilot the boat, you have to sit down and like take the rudder, and that's nice too. You have to actually use the rudder. I've been doing a lot of the side quests. I will say the side quests are a little boring compared to the main story quests. They're pretty standard RPG fare.
Yeah.
The story associated with some of them is kind of nice, but I mean, the Witcher contracts, there's no story with those. They're basically like, oh, there's a monster attacking our village, please go kill it. But the Witcher contracts are where you're going to get all of your gold. Like, every Witcher contract is like 300 to 400 gold.
It's a lot of money. It's pretty good.
And nothing else gives you shit for gold, really.
Well, actually, I gotta disagree with you there, because although, yeah, the contracts are awesome, and although you can haggle the price up on them, I don't know. It doesn't seem to add a lot of money for me. Maybe when you get into the higher, end game stuff, because I'm only level 13 right now.
I can
level
generally
cap's 70.
I can generally get like an extra
adds,
50 on.
I can't even get that on mine. I can only add like 10 or 15 before they get too annoyed and go, "Oh, could you please lower it a little bit, sir?" And then I'm like, "Okay, well, fine."
It's like, look, do you want me to kill the fucking monster or not? Because I don't see any other witches.
I could go.
Around.
There's nobody else is trying to help you out here.
Yeah, I'm helping you. So why don't you help me? But it's like, what were you going to say was a good source of money?
Right. Well, I've been noticing that I'm getting a lot of relic items now, and like the relic quality items, these are the ones that are like unique items or legendary ones that are.
They're the legendaries, basically.
They're the legendaries of this game. And the ones I've been finding, I don't know about you, but they're selling for like 400 or 500 gold a pop if I take them to a blacksmith. It's pretty good money.
I generally can sell those for like 200 or 300, the ones that I've been finding.
Yeah.
When I say the ones that I've been finding, I mean my boots and swords, because that's all I fucking found for relics. I found like 15 relic boots and like 5 or 6 swords and nothing else. No relic anything else.
I've actually found I only found 1 relic boot, and everything else has been swords for me. But I do have some relic recipes. I've made a couple of them, but
I don't have any of those.
I got a few. I got the assassin gloves, assassin pants. Those are relic. A couple more, a couple swords. I have one for a chest, or I don't know about swords, but I have one for a chest piece as well. Yeah, it's been all right.
So as you can see, there's a pretty good variety in the game.
Yes.
Another thing that I wanted to talk about while we're talking about side diversion things is I want to talk about Gwent, a.k.a. the world's most frustrating fucking card game. It's so fucking aggravating. It seems like the computer always draws the exact fucking card that it needs. They always I have like this plan going in. I don't know how much Gwent you've played. I've been playing quite a bit of it. It reminds me of Triple Triad from Final Fantasy VIII, which was like my favorite diversionary mini game. So,
yeah. Well, I can tell you, I've played about this much Gwent, and I'm embarrassed. Well, I played the one round that is like the tutorial quest for how do you play Gwent, and that's it. Which, by the way, was a shitty fucking tutorial because I don't think it tells you that there's more than one round. I didn't know what I was doing. It said, okay, here's where you put the cards, here's where he puts his cards, and there's your deck. Have fun. And then I got to a point where I kept putting soldiers on the field.
You're like, I'm going to win. Look at how many points I have.
Yeah, I was like, wow, this guy just keeps
passing. Crushing him.
I'm going to win this for sure. So I had like 2 cards left after the first round, and I couldn't win. But, okay, I chalked that up to, all right, well, it's the tutorial. I learned my lesson, and now I'm ready to go. And I made in my notes for the podcast, it was the very first note that I wrote. Gwent's pretty fun. Talk about it on the podcast.
That's what, because
I didn't play any Gwent after that.
I was like, have you played Gwent yet? And you're like, we're going to talk about Gwent on the podcast.
And it was after the one. I was like, yeah, Gwent seems pretty cool. I know it's more complex than the dice game they had in the previous, or in Witcher 1 at least, which I thought was pretty fun, but also frustrating. That fucking PC, the AI cheats. I know it does.
Let me tell you the problem with the dice game in the original Witcher. I'm like, I'm just going to tip the... they all fucking bounced out. They bounce out of this little fucking container that they're contained in, and you lose them. They're gone. That's it. You don't get to recover them.
It's unbelievable because it's not like playing a dice game that you install on your phone, like a little casino game. Like, it actually uses the physics engine to roll the dice. Yeah.
So sometimes you'll just get fucked, want to land on its corner, and it'll just shoot out of the table, and you're like, I fucking lose this round, I guess.
Or they can get stuck, too. They can just land on a corner and be wedged against one die and the wall of the board, and then just stay there.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll resolve themselves eventually. I kid you not. I've sat for 5 fucking minutes waiting for one dice roll, because I had a really good roll the previous round. I was like, all right, this is it. It's going to be a 6. And then, I just fuck it. I give up.
That game's gone, by the way, completely gone. The only side game, aside from, you can do horse races, which aren't, I've never found like racing and game like all if a game is not a racing game, I don't really care to race in it.
Yeah.
Like you can do that. There's like some races that you do in Dragon Age Inquisition. I was like, I don't really like this. Like, there's no challenge to them really. I haven't lost a horse race in Witcher 3 yet. It's
Yeah.
like incredibly easy to win.
Well, that's the thing, because it has to give you a win scenario, and that win scenario has to involve you using no more than the maximum stamina for your horse.
Yeah.
So you always have the tool you need to win. It's already decided for you. You know.
Yeah.
There's not a case. The only case that you can lose these races is if you just kind of give up halfway through and say, yeah, I'm just gonna like trot for this next little part. If you just don't give a shit. But if you actually just hold down the sprint and stay on the track, you win. There's not a way to lose. Not that I've run into anyway. Maybe it's harder on hard difficulties. Oh, by the way, I haven't asked you, but what difficulty do you play on? I play on the second hardest one. I don't play on the hardest difficulty.
I am playing on the second easiest one, so I'm one difficulty under you actually. And I did that because I know that the Witcher game's combat is fucking brutal.
Oh God, like, can we talk about that for a second? Can
yes,
we talk about the combat?
Okay. The Witcher is intentionally. It's a game. Not the combat is not for me. Basically, like I love the game and I love the combat, but
wait, Witcher 1 or Witcher 3?
Witcher 3. Witcher 3, all Witcher 2 and 3 basically have the same combat system, but it's not necessarily the system. I love it, but it's built for people that are the polar opposite of me. If I play an RPG, I will never use any of my fucking potions. I'll save them all up till the end of the game. I'm like, I'm going to need these for the final boss, and I never fucking need them for the final boss. If you do not use your potions, your oils, everything at your disposal in The Witcher, you're going to fucking die.
They really do help a crazy fuck ton. I mean, I kind of need them for a lot of fights on my difficulty. I can only imagine playing on the hardest one, which I think is Death March.
Yeah.
I can only imagine how hard it is playing on that. Now, that being said, there is a talent in the combat tree that lets you have a 100% damage reduction when you dodge. And I have that. And that is amazing. That helps so much. But my problem isn't in fighting one enemy. Pretty much one enemy, no matter who they are, I'm okay. I got that. That's easy. Because, you can dodge, you can counter, whatever. It's not hard to do. But there are bosses that I can handle just fine, like monster contracts, Witcher contracts, that are easy as hell. But if I run into, like, 4 drowners at once, and this is, like, the first enemy that you fight in this game. Sorry, maybe the second or third. But this is not a difficult enemy. This is a basic fucking white monster.
Yeah.
But, man, a pack of them at a time, I don't know what it is. They can just jump at you, and maybe it's because I'm shitty or I need to, like, pick my battles, but I feel like I should have the tools at my disposal to be able to handle, like, 3 fucking drowners at once. But sometimes I just pick the wrong moment to dodge or whatever, and then I get chain hit, and then 3/4 of my health is gone, and you can't dodge out of it after that. But, I mean, I have to chalk that up to me just rushing into a fight when maybe I shouldn't have.
Yes, it's...
So,
somebody,
it takes some getting used to.
I was talking to somebody about the game, and they asked me, so is it just like the Arkham style combat, like Arkham City, the Batman Shadows of Mordor, that sort of like super free flow combat where like you just hold a direction and press the punch button and you jump towards the enemy that's that direction. It's I want to say The Witcher's combat, it's polished, but it's intentionally meant to seem unpolished. So like it looks kind of sloppy. It doesn't feel sloppy when you're fighting, but it looks like, if you're fighting 4 bandits, it looks like a person would look like when they're fighting 4 bandits. You're kind of like spinning around. You're like trying to hit the one closest to you, trying to dodge out of the way. I have no problems with any monsters so far. I can fight like a pack of 6 drowners and I'll be fine. Fucking humans, if there's just 2 of them, they're so hard to fight. I like that because it makes sense because the Witcher's a monster hunter. That's his job, basically. He hunts down like weird monsters that nobody wants to fight. So it makes sense that he would be more proficient at fighting monsters than he would be at fighting humans. But it's so aggravating to fight multiple humans at a time because they block a lot. Humans fucking block like crazy, even if they don't have a shield. If they have with like a normal sword, it's not so bad. If they have a big polearm or an axe, if you hit them while they're blocking, it stuns you momentarily, and they get a free hit on you, basically. Yeah. If they have a shield up, it's just a fucking nightmare in general. I'll tell you, the best tool that I have gotten is I went down the magic talent tree and I got the upgraded Igni, which if you hold down the magic button, you shoot fucking fire from your hand. Instead of
Oh
just
yeah.
one burst, it's like a fountain of fire that comes out of your hand.
Yeah, it's a flamethrower. Yeah.
If you hit a shield enemy with that, they will drop their shield. When they light on
Oh
fire
no
and
shit.
start burning, they just drop their fucking shield. It's gone.
Oh, that's awesome. I've been using
And
art to get around those, just like kind of stagger them for a second.
Igni
Like, they don't
Igni
drop
is
the
like
shield.
basically my go-to spell. Even without the flamethrower, you can if you light somebody on fire with Igni, it's a free hit. They can't that while they're burning, they can't block. They recover really fast. After you hit them, they stop like their like burning stop up animation. But
Yeah.
it's basically a free hit. So if you just like roll or if you're really having trouble, the least you can do, you can just throw Igni, which is like it casts in an arc normally in front of you, like a 45-degree arc, and then you just roll away until your magic is back up. You basically just run away and then you cast it again until you get that free hit. And I've had to do that a few times against like big packs of enemies.
Well, I'll tell you what I've been doing when I run into a pack of enemies. Oh, and by the way, with humans, I'm okay with them now. But at the start, when I didn't know how to fight them properly, it wasn't even like two or three guys with melee weapons. It's the fucking archers. Because I didn't know that you could, or actually, I don't even know if you can block arrows at the start. I think you need a talent for
You
it.
need a talent. You can
Yeah.
block them, I think, and you take
Can
like
you?
reduced damage. But
Well, there's one that's there's a talent that lets you actually deflect them with your sword,
Yeah.
so you don't take it. And then eventually, you can actually reflect the arrow back at them if you time it right, which is kind of fun. Even though it looks dumb, honestly, because you can never fucking do that.
it's impossible. Yeah,
Yeah.
That's not a thing you can do in real life.
But it's really satisfying. And sometimes at the end of a fight, when there's just the one dude left and he's an archer, I'll wait for him. Be like, all right, shoot me. Come on,
Shoot at me.
And then I'll
Let's do
try
this.
and dig it back at him. But no, the way I've been fighting most of the game, my sign that I use most of the time is Quen. And I'll just pop Quen, and then it gives you the shield, and just run in there and do fast attacks and dodge as best I can. And then if I do fuck up and get hit, I'll roll away and cast Quen again. It's kind of cheesy, honestly, but it's fun.
Quinn's really good.
I like it.
I use Quinn when I'm fighting like werewolves or something. Anything that where there's some enemies that have like no tells for their attacks. A lot of enemies they have wind up. Like most enemies in this game, you know when they're about to attack you and you can parry it. And I will say you didn't play The Witcher 2. Parrying in The Witcher 2 was fucking terrible. It almost never worked. You had to parry as the animation started from the enemy, but if they were too far into the animation, it wouldn't block it. Like the parry would not work. I had so much trouble with the combat tutorial in The Witcher 2 because you have to parry, and it's so hard to parry in that game. It's significantly easier in this game. You still have to have good timing, otherwise you'll just kind of block it, or worst comes to worst, you won't block it at all. Like you'll parry a little bit too early and still get hit. But I don't have any problems with the archers because when I see an archer, I just roll up to them and I kill them because they can't block when they have their crossbow out. So you
And,
basically
I've
kill
noticed,
them for free.
Well, I've noticed with the archers, when you get close to them, they'll take out their sword or they'll do the animation, so you still
Takes
get
them
a
too
chance
long.
to attack them.
They're fucking
takes
dead.
them too long. I haven't noticed anybody do that after I approach them and then back off. Maybe they have been, and I just didn't notice it. But they'll at least in my experience that I can remember, they've kept the sword out. So if I want to cancel an archer, I'll just like rush them
I think I've seen.
and back off.
I don't
Did
think
they
I've
do that
seen-
though? Do they?
I don't think I've seen an
draw-
archer go to a sword and then back to an archer. But I think I've seen guys that started with a sword pull out a crossbow.
I don't know if I've seen that or not. It might have happened, but
I might
some
have just
fights
been
are so
missing
huge.
something, but I thought like I went into fights and thought there were no archers, and then suddenly I was getting pelted with arrows. But
Yeah.
that I don't know. That could be just.
Oh, hey, they can do it the other way, so maybe they do pull out bows.
I do have. We've talked about most of like the big things. I have some smaller
Yeah.
things that I wanted to go over. I like when you first load into the game, you get this cool little vignette with Dandelion, the bard, narrating. He basically narrates the most recent story stuff that you've done,
Yeah.
and I like it, and I understand why they have it because it basically hides the load screen. So half the load screen you don't even see a screen, you just see this little like cutscene, and it makes the load time seem lower. But it's really frustrating if you're like dying over and over and you have to keep reloading the same save and seeing the same fucking recap over and over.
Yep.
I was fighting a werewolf in one of the Velen quests, and I was like 3 levels over what the quest said I needed to be, but I was still getting my ass kicked. I didn't have Swallow at the time. So I had no potions, basically, at this point. So I kept dying, kept having to reload, kept getting that same recap, and it was so annoying after, like, the third or fourth time. I really like the crafting system. I like the fact that you can dismantle items to get crafting materials.
That's been pretty handy.
But I will say I haven't used it recently because I have so many fucking crafting materials of every type that I would ever fucking need. I have, like 150 straps of leather, and you use like 2 when you craft a sword. So I haven't dismantled anything in a really long time. I basically just sold it. It's really nice at the beginning, but I feel like it falls off a lot when you get to the late game and you already have a ton of materials, because I'm a hoarder.
Yeah.
If I walk past like a bush with like some fucking thing that I need in it, I'll just pick it up even if I don't need it. And you stockpile a lot more in this game, because in the previous Witcher games you just brewed the potions and used them and they were gone. In this game you get charges on your potions, and each time you meditate you use alcohol in your inventory to replenish the charges on both your bombs, your oils, and your potions. So you craft a potion once and it's done. You don't need the materials anymore. So I have
the oils, by the way, the oils don't even have charges. They're just
you just use them. And there's so much shit in my bag, in my alchemy tab. It's like 2 full pages of just random stuff I'm never gonna need, and it doesn't sell for much.
I know, and I'm 30 hours in, and I keep noticing my inventory weight doing this. And every time I come back to town, I sell all the swords and everything, and it's the fucking alchemy ingredients.
Yeah, I can't get below 50. I'm at 50 weight, and I've gotten rid of all the books and stuff. Another complaint is that anytime you take a contract off a notice board, that's where you're going to get your Witcher contracts, by the way, is the notice board. They post like, oh, there's a monster attacking us, come help. It gives you a fucking paper in your inventory so you can replenish your memory. It's like a quest log, basically. You can read it and get the details on it. It doesn't go away when you finish the quest. It's still there.
Well,
you have to empty it yourself.
But I think it's got to be a bug, because some of them do.
Yeah.
And I know that I've opened up my inventory and kind of... Well, I've been noticing that problem because some of them don't. Sorry, I'm wording this terribly. Some of them are bugged and they stay in your inventory for the whole game, because once the quest is over, there's no longer like a flag to pull that item out of your inventory. It's gone. Yeah. So I guess, they must weigh something. Yeah.
They have like
some of them are definitely bugged.
They have 0.1, which isn't much, but it adds up.
It adds up. Every penny counts.
Another thing that I found really annoying is if you sell something, you're fucked. There's no option to buy it back. There's no like buyback tab or anything, and it sells for so much less than it costs. I accidentally sold my sword that I was going to equip. I sold it for like 150 gold. It cost me 800 to buy it back, and I had to buy. I was like, I gotta fucking buy it back. I can't afford not to.
It's an easy mistake to make too, because I think if you right click on an item, that like there's no confirmation. It's just boom, sold. That's it. Yeah.
And I did it actually because I was trying to mass sell these white swords. So if you select a sword and then you press like E, it sells it, and then it highlights the next sword. So you can just like
cool! I didn't know that.
And then, but it doesn't like it takes like weird routes sometimes. So it'll go across the screen, and when it gets to the end screen, it picks the one below it instead of like I would assume it would typewriter type of thing, and it would go to the next 2 slots. No, it just goes straight down. So like I'm like sell shit. And it's not like a huge deal. I haven't done it since I fucked up that one time and did it, but I could see it being really bad at the start of the game when you don't have much gold. I have a ton of gold now. Like I'm rolling in money at this point.
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good too.
The repairs were a problem at the start of the game. Like I had to pick and choose. I'm like, well, my boots are still at 30%. I could hold off on repairing those. I've got some time, because it would cost like 230 gold to repair all my stuff, and I would have like 170. Now it still costs 230 to repair all my stuff, but I have like 5,000. So
it does reduce the usefulness of the item though as they get more.
Yeah, that's the problem. Is you have to like pick and choose, and it's rough at the start. It gets a lot better, but I kind of like it at the start like that. I like this sort of like you got to pick and choose. You got to be careful
you're not
with
drowning
your stuff.
in money right off the bat.
I wish it stayed that way. I wish those repair cost scaled, honestly, so that you had to like keep multiple weapons with you and switch between them. That would be awesome. But it falls off. The repair cost doesn't scale at all.
Yeah, it's kind of funny for me because I was thinking, well, I'm glad I have this money now because I might need to buy alchemy ingredients, but no,
not really.
No, not so much. Not so much.
There's not much to spend your money on. Recipes, basically. That's about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, uh, a couple more quick things. When you complete a quest, it is like the most satisfying thing ever. The fucking jingle that it plays for
I
you.
love that sound. It's so good.
It's like a chorus,
so
like
good.
praising you to heaven for finishing your fucking quest.
I love it.
And another thing that I really like is the fact that Geralt's beard grows in over time. And it's like there's a day-night cycle in the game, and when you meditate, it takes you through hours, and your beard will grow. I'm trying to see how long I can get his beard going. I think it might have stalled. It doesn't look like it's gained any length.
I feel like I've gotten it to the maximum, and then there's a point where it just stops. You don't get like the massive Gandalf.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping for. I wanted like a big beard. I don't know if you had any other notes for The Witcher 3. That's pretty much all. Another thing that I really like is the like fucking detective investigation style quests where you have to use your Witcher sense to like figure out what was going on. I do wish that it was a little bit less like, this thing has a red outline. That's what you have to look at clearly.
That's what bugs me, and because I love those too. I love that even simple ones like the contracts and stuff that have nothing to do with the story, just sort of random quests, so to speak. Even those, you do a little, you got to go and talk to this person about it because they saw the monster, and here's the monster tracks, and there's some blood. But it's just kind of boring when it's just a button that you hold down.
Yeah,
and I see all the clues.
I wish it highlighted the clues and interactable items all the same color, and you had to like figure out which one you were supposed to interact with. But it highlights them in red, so basically you just hold right-click, and you're like, there's the thing.
It's a big this is important. Go look at it. Kind of notification. Yeah.
So other than that,
they're fun.
Yeah, I wrote down about some freezes, but I haven't had any freezes since that patch came out. So
I've been having weird thing, and I did want to talk about the performance really briefly. I'm still having a freeze or a crash once in a blue moon. It's not happening that often because I'll sit down and play this game for like 5 or 6 hours at a time, like I've been doing to prepare for the podcast, right? So I think in the grand scheme of things, they're really not happening that often, but it is still happening to me. It happened in the last session I did. But other than that, I have had actually really good performance for the whole game, more or less. I should say my memory card is GTX 970. It's handling the game really well. Although I've got everything on Ultra, all the maximum textures, all the post-processing, everything. Looks fucking beautiful, by the way. And I get decent frame rate. It's not like maxed out or anything, but I'm always getting at least 30 or 40 frames a second, which isn't bad. It's pretty good. I'm enjoying it a lot.
Yeah, I have a Radeon something. I don't remember what I have. Not as good as yours. I don't have everything on Ultra. I have to like pick and choose my settings, but I get between 30 and 45 frames. I was reading a lot of people complaining that that's all they were getting with everything on Ultra, but I feel like maybe I want to say it might not, even though it has NVIDIA like Hairworks thing, I don't think it's super optimized to NVIDIA cards. I feel like it performs better on AMD cards. Everybody I saw that was complaining about it had like, I've got like a GTX, fucking SLI GTX 970s. And
it might be Hairworks actually, because you can either disable Hairworks or you can enable it for only Geralt, or you can have it for I guess all the characters, like everybody. And that's I think that's an NVIDIA feature, isn't it?
I don't have it on because I have a Radeon card, but
yeah. So people that I've been seeing talking about this game, there's a lot of stuff going around like I turned off Hairworks and my FPS boosted by like 20. So apparently it makes a huge difference. I think I've just left it as it is. I've not really played with Hairworks at all. Although I did notice something that's really funny, or it's funny to me, and I don't know if this is Hairworks or just the game, but when the game is paused, you can still see the hair flowing in the wind.
Oh.
And everyone else, all the characters are frozen, right?
It might be Hairworks. I don't think I've seen that.
It might be Hairworks, yeah. I just thought that was kind of funny. Yeah. That's pretty much all I had to say about the performance, though. I thought it was pretty good. We talked about combat. Yeah.
And it looks fucking great. I don't have everything maxed, and it still looks amazing.
And the animations are fantastic. Can I say that?
Yeah.
Because you get games like Mass Effect, for example, which is supposed to be a game similar to this one in the sense that it's very, very story heavy. It's about the characters and and the digital acting, right? But some of the animation in that game, man, in like the Mass Effect series, it's terrible, really, really bad. But no, in The Witcher 3 at least, it's really really good. The expressions the characters make are awesome. They look natural. I haven't yet had a case of looking at them and feeling like I'm talking to a robot, which is awesome.
The facial animations are really good, which is something
Yeah,
that's really hard for video games to hit. I feel like
definitely.
Mass Effect 1, I feel like was praised when it came out for that, and then you look at Mass Effect 3 and it hasn't evolved at all, and it's like, oh, they
It
just
really has. It's because when I
they
think
look
it was,
like fucking
2007.
potatoes.
They look terrible.
Yeah.
But back when the first game came out, it was kind of the standard. Like, okay, we don't really have much that's better, and this is pretty good for what we have. And people thought that Mass Effect 1 looked amazing at the time.
Yeah.
But man, looking back, ugh,
People thought the PS1 looked
embarrassing.
amazing when it came out, so
Yeah.
look at this 3D, it's amazing. Ooh, they did not age well.
No, no.
That's about all I have for The Witcher. Did you have anything else
Yeah,
that we didn't cover?
I'm pretty spent on The Witcher. Yeah, I mentioned the movement. Just looking through my notes here.
So this is probably going to run
Yeah.
long, I'll tell you, because we're at 55 minutes right now.
Yeah,
So
I was.
we
definitely
were
wrong
we
on
were
that count.
worried that we weren't going to have enough to cover an hour. We were estimating between 30 minutes and an hour, and I was like, I
Yep.
think we can get 30 minutes out of The Witcher.
And we have other stuff that we wanted to talk
Yeah,
about.
we've gotten an hour out of The Witcher, and that's with
So
me.
we're-
Like, I was
yeah.
rushing some of that stuff along, like all those little side things. I was just throwing those out there so that we talked about it.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. We're doing pretty good on the whole time thing. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm pretty good on The Witcher. That's all I have to say on that game for now. Other than, I guess I want to summarize though. I definitely am really really happy with the game so far. I'm having a ton of fun. It's the first game I played in a long, long time, and I'm talking years here, where I really look forward to sitting down and playing like another hour, several hours long session. Like I really look forward to coming home and playing it. So yeah, I'm definitely happy with it. It's one of the few games I've bought recently that I had pre-ordered that I ended up being happy with. So I wanted to get out of the habit of pre-ordering games, but this one looked good enough that I was like, all right, I'll head to
Yeah.
bets.
Well,
Ready to go.
when
Yeah,
you
it turned out
pre-order things digitally, they're cheaper. I can't not do that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and I mean they make it so fucking easy to do too. Like,
Yeah.
oh, just click the button and you spent your money. Yay! Good for
yeah,
you.
basically. Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's probably the best game I played this year. I will say,
Me too. Me too.
I was looking forward to Dragon Age Inquisition so much, and it came out, and it was fun. It's this weird thing. I have fun when I'm playing it, but I never have the urge to play it. Like,
That's my problem. Yeah.
sometimes
same with me.
sometimes I'll start it up just because I'm like, oh, I bought the game, I better play it, and I have fun when I do that. But I never sit down and go, man, I really want to play Dragon Age.
See, that's what I what I feel for The Witcher. That's the feeling that I have
And
when I think about this game.
I'll
And then
tell you-
I'm in the same boat. I don't feel that way at all about Dragon Age.
I'll tell you right now, Dragon Age Inquisition to me, it felt less like a Dragon Age game and more like a poorly done Witcher game. And
That is a good way to describe
The
it.
Witcher
Really-
3
no,
is
that's
like
pretty-
everything I wanted from Dragon Age Inquisition. When I realized that it was playing like that. When I realized I was playing the game, it's gotten way away from the tactical feel of the first game. The first game was more like a tactical RPG. It was like Baldur's Gate or something, basically.
Yeah.
The way
And it
I
did that
played
pretty
it,
well.
at least.
I thought that the way it handled
first
it was
one was
good for what
great.
it was. Yeah.
The second one
game,
had some weaknesses.
I'm not a
I
big fan.
don't think it was as bad as everybody said, but it wasn't.
yeah. Some of the talk I think is a little exaggerated.
Compared to the first
but
one,
I-
it was definitely not great.
Yeah, not as good as an
Had a
experience.
lot of shortfalls. A lot of things
Yeah.
that they tried to do new, I feel like, that they didn't work. And
Well, I feel like there was a lot of things in the second game that were sort of parroting things that were popular in the industry at the time.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, that's selling a lot of copies, so let's do it that way.
they
And
were like, you know what
that's-
worked for us in the first
Didn't
game?
really work.
The tactical combat. Let's just get rid of that.
Yeah, it's-
People don't want to play that, clearly.
They fucking did that with Mass Effect. You remember the Mako, right? And now
Yeah.
that's coming back for Mass Effect 4. But they, with the scanning minigame in Mass Effect 2, okay, so in Mass Effect 1, the Mako wasn't that good, sure. But it was still really fun for what it was. I had a fucking blast driving that thing around. Even though the planets
Yeah.
were pretty boring, actually. There wasn't anything to do on them except for the one thing and like 2 or 3 little things that you could go up to and press A on, and that was it. But then Mass Effect 2 comes around, and instead of fixing it and making it better, one of the most beloved features of the
Just
first game,
fucking kick
they're
it
like,
out.
fuck it, just get rid of it.
I
They
do
finally
like
learned their lesson from the sound of it because it's coming back.
the Mass
But,
Effect 3
we'll see.
implementation. I thought was really good. It was you got to drive it around, but you had set goals on the planet. It showed
Oh wait,
you where
you mean the Hammerhead?
Yeah, the hammerhead.
Hovercraft.
It wasn't.
Okay, yeah.
Not the Mako, but it basically took the place of the Mako from the first game. But I felt like they did it a little bit better than in the first one in terms of not putting you like, because there's so much space in the first one that's just unused on the planets. So like you can drive around, and it's really cool to drive around on different planets, but there's not much to do on them. Mass Effect 3, every planet you could land on had 2 or 3 things that you could do, and they were spread out enough that you got to drive around the planet, but it was never like, you know, you were never on one half of the map and you were like, there's fucking nothing over here.
Yeah.
So hopefully they take some cues from that for Mass Effect 4.
I'm optimistic. I really hope it'll be okay, because overall I like Mass Effect. I like the series. I think it's a cool universe. It's got a lot of potential.
I would say that's probably an understatement to say that you like the Mass Effect universe.
Okay, all right. Look,
that's a little bit of an understatement.
You know what? There was a time, and yeah, you know this. There was a time when I fucking loved Mass Effect, and it still has a special place in my heart. But I can look back on it now, and I know there was a lot of problems with those games.
Yeah.
So, but because I do like it, you know, in my heart.
I
really
say
hope the next game is good. I really do.
The second one was my favorite. I liked it more than 3 by a small margin, and I didn't really like 1 all that much. I didn't like the combat system in 1, which I think we're divided on. I think you preferred the combat system in 1 to the combat system in the other games.
Well, there's things about the combat system in Mass Effect 3 that I really like. The one thing I liked from Mass Effect 1, which actually sort of ties into the lore of the universe, and this is something that people complained about a lot in Mass Effect 2, was the whole thermoclip business. When in the first game, you just had cooldowns, and that was it. You didn't have actually ammo. But I liked that it was that way because they had a reason for it. If you don't know about the lore of the games, the whole thing is there's this piece of metal inside each gun, and what your gun does is it chips off a little tiny, like, a piece of it so small you can't even see it, a tiny fragment, and that's the bullet, because they're accelerating it so fast that it still hits really hard. So these guns basically had unlimited ammunition from like the lore standpoint, and I thought that was really cool because they picked a rule, they picked a law, they invented kind of their own physics, and they said, okay, this is how shit works with the Mass Effect fields, and now we're gonna take that law and do all this other stuff with it. That's what I loved about that, because then in the second game, they fucking threw it out the window.
Hey, you have bullets now, by the way.
Yeah, and that's kind of that's what I think they did with Dragon Age, because they specifically said, and this is in writing, you can fucking quote them on this, we want the Call of Duty audience. And I'm just taking that out of context, I know, but I think that the whole ammunition thing was a part of that. And they said they wanted to have more tension in the combat. That's bullshit. There was plenty of tension in Mass Effect 1, okay?
Yeah.
Anyway, so I liked that aspect of the combat from Mass Effect 1. I would have been okay with the whole bullet thing if it was that way from the start. And that's because, I don't know, I think it's a cool universe. I really like the lore of that game, those games.
Mass Effect really went downhill when they introduced the war dogs. the nuclear bomb missions, hated those. They really wanted that Call of Duty audience, though. Kill streaks, you know.
Yeah.
So speaking of Mass Effect 4, there's not a lot on the horizon for games coming out. Is there anything you're looking forward to, though? That's coming up anytime soon?
I am, although Mass Effect 4 isn't coming out soon, I am looking forward to E3. That's around the corner, because there's probably going to be some information about the next Mass Effect at E3. And I'll be super disappointed if there's not. Also, whatever Bethesda's cooking up for, I guess, either Fallout or the Elder Scrolls. I hope they're doing something else. But,
I have something about that, actually, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes.
Okay. To answer your question properly, though, I think No Man's Sky is supposed to be out this year.
Is that slated for this year?
Well, they, as far as I know, they haven't actually specified a month, but they're saying 2015. But we all know how that works. I mean, that's definitely no guarantee. But I mean, it looks pretty cool. I don't think it's going to be the best game ever, but
it's slow time for games right now. Anyway,
yeah.
Holiday seasons are over. E3 hasn't happened yet, so we don't have any big news. Splatoon came out today, and I have not played it yet.
Me neither.
I'm going for everybody that doesn't know, I'm going on a trip to Seattle for a week tonight, actually. So I didn't buy it yet because I'm not going to get to play it, so there's no point in me spending the money on it right now.
Well, wait, don't they have a Wii U?
They do, and they might.
They might have it though. Yeah.
If not, it doesn't really have any local stuff. So it has a single player campaign, and it has the multiplayer online, and that's about it. So that was like the big thing that I was looking forward to was Splatoon. I didn't get to play in any of the test fires because they happen at weird times for me because I live in Alaska.
Same.
But
Same.
Ben, a friend of ours, has played them and has played the game pretty extensively since it came out, and he loves it. So
He also can't stop talking about it every chance he gets. Apparently, it's a really good game.
So I'm looking forward to it. I like the fact that the matches are only 3 minutes. Everything's super fast paced. There's no time to stagnate really while you're in the game. Pretty much everything I'm looking forward to is Wii U stuff, honestly. Arkham Knight comes out next month, and I'm kind of looking forward to that. But I'm also, I'm not like super like, oh, I can't wait for that game to come out.
Well, that's one of those series that it's on my list of games that, man, I gotta play it sometime. Not just Arkham Knight, but I mean the whole Arkham game, the whole Arkham series. Those are games that I've always had this mental note, kind of want to try playing that. Never played a single one.
They're good. I like them.
So, yeah, I mean, everybody says that they're just really good games. They know they're not perfect, but they're just really good value for what they are. They're fun.
I'll tell you what I'm worried about.
One of these days I will, yeah.
I'll tell you what I'm worried about with Arkham Knight. From everything, all the coverage that I've seen so far, what I'm expecting is more of the same, but you can drive the Batmobile. Because every news story is like, check it out, you can drive the Batmobile. Who cares? Like, it's cool, but it's not a game-selling feature. And they're not talking about any kind of like innovations really that they're doing. I'm expecting same combat, similar story, open world, or as open as it gets. The world is way bigger because it's like all of Gotham this time.
Were the previous games not open world?
The first one was definitely not. Arkham Asylum was a really contained kind of experience. Arkham City was a little different. It was kind of open world. You were in like this sectioned off part of Gotham that they turned into basically a prison city. And so there were like random things that you could run into on the streets, but it was a little small. Arkham Origins, we won't talk about that one because it wasn't made by the same people, but it was a little bigger, but still kind of that like restricted open world. Arkham Knight is supposed to be all of Gotham, so it's supposed to be huge, and that's why the Batmobile's there, because you can drive around Gotham. But what I'm expecting is boring side quests, similar combat, similar story, the Batmobile. I mean, I don't want to say that I have no faith in it, but I just, because Arkham City's combat was basically just more of the same from Arkham Asylum. There wasn't much different to it. It was fun. I loved Arkham City because I didn't really like Asylum that much because it was too confined and closed in. But I don't have high hopes for Arkham Knight. It's going to be a good game. Just by merit of, they could re-release Arkham City with just in Gotham and it would be a good game.
Yeah.
But I'm not expecting much innovation, honestly.
Well, see, I think what the problem with that is that it's a really popular series already. And now, although I haven't played any of these games, as I said, what I would suspect is what's happening is that the devs are doing something that a lot of devs of popular games do, and that's where, okay, we have this this formula that already works really well and sells millions of copies. Let's just do that again, give it a new coat of paint, and maybe we'll tweak a couple things here and there, but we know this works. And they do that with Call of Duty. They do that with FIFA and like all the sports games. Although those I don't play too often, so please don't bite my head off if I'm wrong. But I know I have a couple buddies that do. They buy the yearly installments just because they like the updated rosters. They acknowledge that the games aren't that different from each other.
Yeah, every couple years they'll innovate one system in a game.
Yeah.
Generally, anytime they've tried to remake the games like from the ground up, it's been a disaster and has gone.
And that's the problem, because when you have a massive publisher who's saying, "All right, well, you guys had a pretty good track record so far. Here's hundreds of millions of dollars to make another one," they know that most of the time it's way safer just to kind of do what works than to experiment.
Yeah.
And that's actually what Mass Effect was. The first Mass Effect game was just a huge experiment for BioWare. They had no idea if it was going to actually go down well or not. So that's why it was kind of unpolished and buggy and looked bad. And all those lovely things.
It looked about the same as Mass Effect 2 and 3, honestly. So
yeah.
It looked good when it came out, and then it looked the same when the series ended. So another game that I'm actually really looking forward to is Yoshi's Woolly World for the Wii U, which is in the same vein as Kirby's Epic Yarn, which I didn't actually play, but I've seen people play. And it's really cutesy, but it's also Nintendo is really good at doing this. It's a game that's really simplistic on the surface, and you can play it really simplistically. A child could play, Kirby's Epic Yarn or whatever and beat it. But there's
Yeah.
secrets and stuff that you can get that are for basically like older gamers. They're a lot harder. All the secret stuff in like New Super Mario Brothers is like fucking tough as nails stuff. Some of that stuff is insanely hard. There's like a level in New Super Mario Brothers Wii U where you have to like dodge fireballs for 7 minutes, and you're like just jumping on this pipe, and they're like throwing fireballs in different. There's no fucking way a kid could do that. Like barely an adult can barely do it. Like I've seen
I
people
think
post it on.
that's got to be why those games remain popular with older generations, right?
So
Because
it's like
a challenge.
the core game is really simple and can be played by a young child, but they put stuff in there for people that are older and can play the games a little bit more competently.
Yeah.
And that's what I like. Nintendo does that better than anybody else by far. Most games, it's like, well, I want to play on easy, and easy's way too fucking easy. And you're like, so I'll play on hard. Well, that's way too fucking hard. There's no middle ground. Also, there's obviously no release date, and it's not going to happen this year, but fucking the new Wii U Zelda, just from the screenshots, looks so good.
It's a given, Everyone who owns that system's looking forward to that game.
From what I was reading, there might be a gameplay demo at E3. No confirmation. It's hard to tell because Nintendo alternates between like pouring fucking everything into E3 and like pulling back and barely having an E3 presence, and it's hard to tell.
Well, there have been one or two where they didn't even have a press conference.
Yeah.
Like they just show up. Maybe they did their own thing at Tokyo Game Show or one of those other ones.
It's hard to tell if they're going to do that or not this year because they don't announce it.
Yeah.
They're doing some stuff for E3, I know, because they made Mega 64 actually directed a video for them with Reggie announcing the stuff that they're going to do at E3.
Yeah, yeah.
E3, speaking of E3, 16th to the 18th, coming up in a couple weeks here.
Definitely looking forward to it. Can't wait, as always.
Obviously, the thing I'm looking forward to the most is Bethesda, who has not had an E3 presence before this year, ever.
Have they not had one at all? Not even
maybe,
a booth?
maybe a long time ago. But this was like, when they said they were going to be at E3, it was like, well, they got to be announcing a new Elder Scrolls or Fallout, because they're not really E3 people.
Yeah.
I will tell you that they have put on sale in limited quantities recently. Bethesda has a Brotherhood of Steel necklace that is like, it's like hand carved. It's like $110. It's like this metal necklace that's like carved out Brotherhood of Steel logo.
Yeah.
Generally, the idea is, why would they be putting that out right now if they're not going to be announcing a new Fallout? Like, there's no
it's
relevance.
Gotta be promotion or something.
When did Fallout New Vegas come out? Like fucking 2008, right? Something like that.
Has it been that long?
It's been a long time.
I know it's been ages. Man, that's a long time. Jesus.
Maybe not 2008. Maybe it's like no later than 2010 at the very
I know it's been
latest.
many years, yeah.
So
that's a long time.
Why would that be? Like, they don't just decide, like, oh, let's make a Brotherhood of Steel necklace. That sounds like a good idea. For no reason. We haven't released a Fallout game in years. So,
and there's so much they could still do with that universe. There's a ton of shit they could do with Fallout right
and there's a lot of rumors going around that they're not actually going to have a press conference at E3. They're going to have a behind closed doors 20 to 30 minute gameplay demo of Fallout 4. I don't know where that rumor originates from, but I've seen a lot of people talking about that there may be a playable demo of Fallout 4 at E3.
Well, we'll keep our eyes peeled. There's definitely going to be a lot to talk about after E3, so we're definitely going to do another show.
I haven't done a ton of E3 research. I don't know like all the things that are potentially coming to E3. I know that like Star Wars Battlefront, which I have no hope for, is going to be at E3. I don't know if you played the original Battlefront games at all.
Did not have the pleasure, unfortunately.
Okay.
I know Battlefront 2 is supposed to be super, super good.
It's really good. Pretty much everything good about it is not coming back in the EA Battlefront game. So
awesome.
no space battles, no galactic conquest was the mode that you played. In Battlefront 2, you basically you would pick a side in galactic conquest, and like it shows you like this map of planets, and you kind of like move from planet to planet, and if it's owned by the opposite faction, you'll have a battle on the planet and you can take over the planet. And if you run into the opposite faction ship, you have a space battle. So it's basically like a game of Risk. You're like going around taking all these territories.
Oh, right on. Yeah,
and the idea is to take over the whole galaxy, obviously. That's gone. EA scrapped it. It's just gone.
Just like what they did with Mass Effect 2 and the Mako.
Apparently, no vehicles at all in Battlefront, which vehicles were a pretty big part of Battlefront 2. Like you could like get into like a fucking AT walker and just like run around blasting people, and they had like
Yeah.
heavy ordnance classes specifically to deal with that.
You got to wonder if, like, at these board meetings where people make these decisions, if someone actually looks at it and says, "All right, well, these are the most beloved parts of this game, so we're going to improve those, keep those, and we got some new ideas. We're going to throw some stuff in. We got to make it fresh." Or if it's just like, well, that was dumb.
Let's just take Battlefield and put Star Wars in it, which is
How
basically...
much can we make people hate this new game and still pay for it?
You got to wonder...
That's the goal here.
Has anyone at EA ever played Battlefront 2? Who knows? It's possible they haven't. So it's looking like, at this point, it's basically going to be Battlefield with Star Wars characters.
Yeah, and everybody was calling that from the moment that game was announced.
Yeah.
It's just going to be another Battlefield.
And
it's funny because I think there's a mod for one of the Battlefield games that is a Star Wars mod.
And I'll
people
tell
are
you,
going to be comparing it how close Battlefront is
Oh, yeah.
to that mod. Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, we're apparently back in the Red Faction days because no fully destructible environments in Battlefront. It's that specific, like, they'll put a wall up and only part of it's destructible, and they pick the part.
Like,
and
this
it's a
is where you
specific
can break the
destruction.
wall.
Yeah.
So have fun. Yeah.
Which is like Red Faction 1. That's what Red Faction 1 did. And it's a huge step back for Battlefield, which has had fully destructible shit since like the Xbox 360 came out. So I don't know what they're doing there.
Yeah, I'm not optimistic. I'm really not.
Speaking of Star Wars, though, Visceral Studios, the people that made Dead Space, are working on a Star Wars game at E3.
Really? Any news about that? Like,
sorry,
what kind of game
not
it
at
is,
E3.
or?
Nobody has any idea. There's no news on it whatsoever.
Just
But they are going to be
Star
talking
Wars.
about it at E3. So, it's... I mean, basically, like, it could be anything. Which is... It's good. I like that.
It means it might possibly not be terrible.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Could be... I would say... It's probably safe money that it's going to be like a follow-up to an existing Star Wars game franchise, because there's so many of them. And any of them could be like Jedi. There could be like a Jedi Knight 3 that would come out. Pretty much any of them.
Jedi Knight 3. I want another Jedi Knight.
I have actually...
Jedi Knight.
I actually started playing through Knights of the Old Republic. Painstakingly, because I wanted to play it at high resolutions, and I just couldn't fucking get that to work at all.
Were you doing that while you and I were playing the Old Republic, or after, or before?
After.
Okay.
I started doing it when I wanted a break from Witcher. So... Which didn't happen super often, but Witcher gets my computer running real fucking hot. So sometimes I need to turn Witcher off because it's like 90 degrees in my room. We have been playing Star Wars: The Old Republic.
Yeah, we've been doing some of that. We had to break from it for our Witcher research, of course.
Yeah.
But
I've still been playing a little bit with a friend of mine.
I miss it. I haven't been playing any because, man, I got to tell you guys, this is a tight schedule for me because I got work, I got school, and I come back and it's like, oh, now I have to do the research for the podcast.
Yeah,
Canada's
got weird. Canada's got weird school stuff. My school's done. I'm out for the summer, but
we have these weird schools where if you fucked up in high school, you can go and do high school again as an adult, and that's half true for me. But that's what it's been like for me. I haven't had a lot of time to play games besides The Witcher, or really, it's more like, okay, I have some time where I can play a game, and I want to get through as much of The Witcher as I can, so I'll do that.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I haven't gotten sick of it yet. But I'm sure that's coming.
We
soon.
can start. We wanted to focus on The Witcher because it was going to be the focus of this episode. So.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure we had enough to talk about to get through 30 minutes of the podcast. So, yeah, we scraped by. Just about made it. I think we're going to be okay. Speaking of, is there a point where you want to cut this off, or
we still have a little bit to talk about?
Is there anything more you want to talk about? Okay.
We're an hour 18. I'll shoot for an hour and a half, basically. We could probably fill that out.
And it's the premiere episode, so we can make it long. It's all right.
Yeah. And we'll figure out how to stop just spouting off at the mouth and wrap it up a little bit. The Old Republic, I want to talk about that a little bit because you are not an MMO gamer whatsoever. You do not play MMOs.
There's been maybe 2 in my life that I've invested more than a few days into. So
Star Wars, I assume, also.
Well, I mean, like more than a few days, not straight 3 days of playing.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
because you play Galaxies, right?
No, I never played Star Wars Galaxies. I'll tell you that the 2 MMOs that I've actually played consistently until I really decided to quit, and those were Anarchy Online which is apparently actually getting that engine update after like 8 fucking years.
We'll see.
It's happening. Register for the beta. Sign up. So Anarchy Online and oh right, Eve. Yeah, I played Eve for like a month.
I could never get
And
into Eve.
it was cool, but I guess I didn't do the exciting stuff, which is like going out and being a dick to people. So
I feel like 0.5% of people do the exciting stuff in Eve.
yeah, it's too easy to stay in the comfort zone where you're not at risk of being attacked. So people do that, and then they go, "Oh, well, there's nothing to do," and I'm bored. But it comes down to the player to go out and do that. But yeah, the point is, I haven't really played many MMOs. I've definitely played Old Republic with you for as long as I played Anarchy Online, for sure.
Yeah. And
so this is definitely number 3 for me.
I'm the opposite. I'm like a perennial MMO gamer. I'll try every MMO basically because I avoided them for so long. I wanted nothing to do with World of Warcraft. I did not start playing World of Warcraft until the second expansion came out, Burning Crusade. Sorry, that's not the second expansion. That's the first expansion. Second World of Warcraft, though. And I played super fucking casually when I did that. Like, I bought it, and I was going to play with some people from work. I worked at GameStop at the time. And they all quit within, like, a week. So, like, I was barely playing. Like, I would get on, like, maybe once every couple weeks, and I would gain a level, and I'd be like, I'm fine. I'm done. So I think I got to, like, level 40 by the time that expansion was over. And I didn't play for a long time from like the middle of that expansion to the end. I really started playing the game when the next expansion came out. That was the second expansion, Wrath of the Lich King. Yeah. That was I actually started playing that one with somebody from work. I was still working at GameStop. I powered through the rest of the levels on my character. And I did like all the end game stuff. I was raiding with an Australian guild, so I was starting raids at 2 a.m. my time and ending them at 6 a.m. my time. I was working evenings at GameStop, so I was like sleeping through the morning and most of the afternoon. Since then, I mean, I've been playing World of Warcraft on and off since then.
Yeah.
I don't really have the time to raid since I started college, so there's not much keeping me in the game because raiding was like what I liked to do, basically.
Yeah, you know, and that kind of thing, that's what turns me off from MMOs, just kind of in general. Of course, there's some that I do like, but and obviously some people fucking love raiding, like that's what they live for, and that's great, good for them. But for me, when I got to that point in Anarchy Online, and also in Eve, when I kind of realized, okay, I really need to be doing more than just like what I'm doing. That's where for me it becomes work that I'm paying other people for, that I'm doing, and I can't get that out of my head when I get to that point in these MMOs, because I've tried lots of MMOs. Like I've done the free trials and the free to plays, and those are, you know, I've done a lot of those. But it always hits that point where, all right, now I need to invest more time, and now it's busy work, and I already have a job that I need to do in school, and you know,
I have to do that job so that I can pay to do this job.
To do this job, exactly. Yeah.
That's basically me. I've probably tried pretty much every MMO that's out there that's like, you know, had any sort of presence, but none of them have really caught me. World of Warcraft, obviously, and that's because I was raiding, and what I like about raiding is just that it makes me feel skilled at something. Like, when I'm raiding, like, the thing about raiding is, in general, if you're not pulling your weight, it's going to show. It's going to be real fucking obvious that you are fucking up somewhere. But conversely, if you're doing really well, it also shows. So you can see, because everybody has like a meter that shows everybody's DPS. If you're not doing DPS, you're a healer or a tank, and it's pretty fucking obvious if you're doing well or not in those roles. And I would always get like this great like sense of achievement. It felt like I was always undergeared compared to other people that were playing the same class as me, but outperforming them pretty consistently. And I kind of attribute that to the fact that I've only ever played one class in World of Warcraft. Most people, they level their class up and they raid a little bit and they're like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to level another class up. I've never had more than one class at max level. I've played a rogue since I started playing the game. So I feel like I have more knowledge of that class than a lot of people, because a lot of people are splitting their time between multiple classes. But I loved that sense of accomplishment, and I never really got it from other MMOs because it's hard to get to the end game of an MMO if you're not fucking having fun playing it.
I can kind of relate to that feeling. I know what you're talking about. I did play Terra for a very short time, But one of the classes I was playing in that game was the Lancer, which is like it's one of the tanks. There's a couple tanks in that game. But whenever I would do an instance, and we get to the boss and all the mobs in between, it did feel good to know that all right, we survived that.
Yeah.
Because of this guy, right?
Yeah.
And that was a pretty good feeling. So
it's
yeah,
really
definitely
nice.
I can relate to that. Although from what I hear, when you get to like the end game stuff in a lot of MMOs, the community is just like, well, you're a fucking piece of shit, so get out of the group, right? If you don't play your weight enough. Or some of them are really, really nasty. And that's okay. I mean, go for it. I'm nasty as shit in lots of games. But that's the other side of that coin that you're talking about, where it's like, oh man, I really.
If you're having an off day,
it's my fault.
Yeah.
And, oh, I suck.
If you're having an off day, you're gonna fucking know about it if you're in a raid. People will let you know.
Yeah. Definitely.
But I feel like for me, World of Warcraft worked out perfectly because I leveled so slow, and it was my first MMO, so I was having a lot of fun while I was leveling. The experience was great. It was something I hadn't done before in a long time, since I played like a fucking Final Fantasy game on Super Nintendo or something. That's what it reminded me of when I was playing, because I was playing it mostly alone when I was leveling, so it was basically like a single-player game for me. But it brought me back to like that Final Fantasy RPG type of thing where like I would level up and I was like, oh man, that was awesome. And that magic is fucking dead. Like I cannot level a character on World of Warcraft. It's so painstaking. It takes so long and it's just not what I want to do. I want to be at the end game already.
Do you think it's because you're just older now? And
I don't know.
Actually the same
it
experience,
might be.
But now you just don't like it as
Maybe
much.
I just don't have the time. I don't want to invest the time into wasting all this time leveling when I could be playing the game. And I'm at the point where I don't really consider it playing the game in World of Warcraft leveling. That's just like the shit I have to slog through before I get to actually play the game. So
that's actually kind of what I like about the Old Republic.
Because that's what I was going to segue into.
Go for it. Yeah, go ahead.
It feels like the Old Republic is the first MMO in a while to catch me, aside from Final Fantasy XIV, which I really enjoyed. But I didn't want to pay for it, which seems kind of pointless now because I'm fucking paying for the Old Republic. But I started back up with the Old Republic because it went free to play, so it hooked me. And Final Fantasy XIV, if I had people to play with, I'd probably subscribe to it again because I was having a lot of fun with that. And you could play that with a controller, which is like a fucking great draw because I can lean back in my chair.
That blew my mind when I heard you could do that with the game because it's an MMO.
It's really well implemented.
Don't play
too.
MMOs with a pad because you have like 30 different spells and you need hotkeys. And,
See, that's not the case with Final Fantasy
XIV. So
with Final Fantasy XIV, you have a really core set of skills, like 5 or 6 maybe, that you use. And that's what makes it work. And it works really well. It's really fun to play it with a controller. We should try Final Fantasy XIV sometime. But we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about the Old Republic. And the Old Republic has drawn me in. And it drew me in when I first played it. I played the Old Republic when it came out. I was in the beta and I played it day of release. I got a character to level 45 back when 50 was the level cap. And it petered off for me for the exact reason that I loved it with the start. And that's the story quests are so good in the Old Republic. You can play it with people, but it still has like the polish of a single player RPG story. So these story quests are so engaging. You get so connected to your character. Like you actually start to feel like it's kind of like Mass Effect with the choices. You can make like good choices or bad choices or in between or whatever you want. And they don't compromise it. So like if you're playing a Sith character, the good choice, like your basic choice is you've got a light side option and a dark side option. The light side option is kill the person. The dark side option is torture the person. So it's not like you're playing a good guy. You're still playing a bad guy, but you've picked the lesser of two evils, so you get some good points for that. You just outright killed the guy with no suffering.
Although to be honest, neither of those should be light side options.
No, but it makes sense in
it's
context.
the game design.
You know, you chose the higher road. You just killed the guy. You didn't make him suffer or anything.
You made it fast.
Yeah. So it does that so well. And it's basic MMO play. Like, everything about it is basically World of Warcraft gameplay.
Yeah.
It feels cooler because it's in the Star Wars universe. You're fucking jumping around with lightsabers and force choking people. But it's all just reskinned World of Warcraft abilities at that point, basically. So the gameplay is nothing special, nothing to write home about.
Oh,
but
definitely. I've been having fun with the game.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying it. But I will never sing praises about, the gameplay is so good, the combat is really good.
There's no innovation here. You're basically
really.
playing reskinned World of Warcraft, but the story is so good that it keeps you playing. And they recently did, if you pay for the game, you get 12 times more experience for doing story quests. So you can actually level only doing story quests now, which is like a fucking godsend, because the side quests, they don't have that story. They're boring. They're like your standard MMO fare, go kill, 15 fucking Gungans or whatever.
And they have dialogue for the side quests, and apparently their stories. I couldn't tell you what a single side quest is because I just I beep through all the audio. I just want to get to the experience points.
But the story quests, you actually start to feel like I'm playing my character out and I want to be a bad guy, but sometimes I'm like, well, I would pick this option, not that option, even if I was an asshole. So it makes you feel connected to your character. It draws you in. It's really good at keeping your interest with just the story quests, and the fact that you can level only doing the story quests, best thing they've done in that game so far.
And that's what makes me want to go back and roll more characters. It's not that I want to raid or try out different abilities. It's because I want to see what the different stories are, because they do a different story for every different every different character. So there's actually a reason to go back. They're gonna get probably at least $100 of my dollars just because I'm gonna be staying subscribed to go back and play the stories again.
Yeah.
And I'm not even ashamed to say that there was a time when it would have been, but fuck it, I don't care anymore. I'm gonna do it.
I will tell you, if you're not gonna pay for a subscription, game is probably not really worth it.
You
don't get the experience bonus.
I started with it.
The free to play, it neuters the game.
It's really
almost unplayable.
Sucks.
If you didn't buy the game previously, so there's 3 tiers. There's free to play straight up. There's a I don't remember what they call it, but it's like a preferred
there's a midway.
status. And that's if you've ever spent money on the game, your preferred status. And then there's subscribers. Free to play, pretty much unplayable. Unless you just want to, press fucking MMO buttons like a monkey. You get one trade skill, so one crafting skill, but you have to have 3 to do anything. It's created that way so that you have to have 2 gathering skills and 1 crafting skill, and the 2 gathering skills complement your crafting skill. So if you can't have 3, you can't even fucking do it. You could buy stuff on the auction house, but you can only hold 50,000 credits if you're a free-to-play person, so you can't afford this stuff. Your experience gain is gimped like hell. Your inventory's tiny. It's almost unplayable if you're just straight free-to-play. If you're preferred, a little bit better. I still wouldn't recommend it unless you're willing to subscribe, though.
It feels like the whole system is designed not in such a way that it's an alternative to subscription, which is what free-to-play MMOs usually do, where they have, there's no monthly fee, but you kind of feel inclined, maybe you want to buy all this cool stuff in the shop. And then your actual game experience isn't any different. But it does feel like, with the Old Republic, the free-to-play is there to make you feel a sense of, well, this sucks, but I did one of those cool story quests, so maybe I want to see more of those. I think that's all it's there for, and I think EA knows that.
I feel like a scumbag for giving them money, because that's what they're fucking doing. They're not trying to show you, hey, this is how cool this game is. Check this out. You're having fun.
Here's a taste.
You should support us.
Yeah.
They're going for, this is what this game, here's a shadow of what this game could be. And if you're having the slightest bit of fun, you're going to have to give us some fucking money if you want to enjoy this.
Yep.
And
it's a sad truth.
that is the most scumbag thing, but the game is fun enough that I can't help it. I'm giving them fucking money. And it's a scumbag thing to do, but the game is fun. Bottom line, if you're paying for it, basically.
Yep. The Old Republic has taught me that I'm not one of those people who would consider the developer and be like, well, I don't like this developer, so I'm not going to give them any of my money, no matter what they make. And I know there's people like that, and that's fine. In fact, that's actually admirable, and I wish I could do that.
Oh, yeah.
I wish I had that kind of backbone, but I just don't.
If you hate EA for the company it was 2 years ago, because they don't really do that anymore, aside from with this game. If you hate EA for the company that it was 2 years ago, don't even fucking think about downloading Star Wars: The Old Republic, because it is a persona. It's a game version of EA. Star Wars: The Old Republic is a game representation of EA itself. And all their shitty business practices that got them voted worst company in the year twice in a row, those are in the game. So if you hate EA, if you still hate EA, even though they've been getting better about it, this is not the game for you. If you hated EA before because of what they did and you boycotted them and maybe you're coming back to them, don't play this game because it's going to fucking ruin everything that they've done in the last couple years to gain trust back. Don't do it. But if you're willing to, give them, you can, it's basically a demo. You can download the game and you can do a couple story quests, and if you like it, you can give them $15 to pay.
I think even calling it a demo is giving it too much credit, because demos usually give you a full-featured slice of the game where it lasts, like 15, 20 minutes. But this is what things you can do in the game. It's not like, well, here's the demo, but you can only run at 1/5 the speed you can in the normal game, and you can't do any of these features, and you can't save your game, and you can't do all this stuff.
It's funny that you use that as a random example. You don't get the sprint ability until like level 40 if you're free to play. So you actually do run significantly slower as a free to play player in Star Wars. You get it at like level 10 if you pay them money.
Actually, I think if you subscribe, you get it right away.
Yeah.
At level 1. Yeah.
Yep. So
like they looked at it and they said, okay, what can we take away from the paid version so that it's better than the free to play? They picked the most annoying fucking thing, which of course in MMOs is how fast you run. I think that's universal, by the way. In any MMO is speed.
Yeah.
That's for me at least. It's one of the major deciding factors of whether I'm going to enjoy that game or not. Is how fast you can get around. So yeah, that's fucking clever of them, because man, the free to play sucks. It sucks.
It's not good.
It's terrible. Oh.
That my basic, it's like you can get a feel if you're going to enjoy the game, like the basics of the game from the free to play, but I feel like there needs to be a disclaimer. Don't go, if you don't enjoy the free to play, you might still enjoy the full game. But they call it a free to play game. It's not really. You can play it for free in the loosest definition of the term play, but it's basically a paid MMO. If you're going to play it for any amount of time, you're going to pay.
You can play a game for free. It's not the same game.
It's not.
It's a different game.
If you have any intentions of playing the game more than a couple days, you're going to have to give them money, basically. Or it's just, there's no point.
In fact, I would suggest, if you want to try the game, subscribe for 1 month.
They have
it's what, like $15?
They specifically have a specific non-recurring option that you can get for just 1 month.
Yeah, because how many times have you bought a game for full price, like $60 or whatever it is, and then you got home, you open it, and now you can't return it, of course, and you play it, and it's fucking shitty, right? This at least, I mean, it's the same thing, but at least it's only $15.
Yeah.
So you're gambling with that much money. It's not the end of the world if you end up hating it, but at least you didn't drop 60 on a brand new game because you pre-ordered it because you're an idiot. So.
And it is...
Yeah, that'd be my advice.
If you like story-based RPGs, if you like single-player story-based RPGs, but you also want to play a multiplayer game, this is like fucking perfect for you.
Yeah.
It has the polish of a single-player game in terms of its story, but it is a multiplayer game.
Yep. And it's a game, so the story isn't like Shakespeare, right? It's not spectacular, but it's okay. It's definitely good enough. It's
a Star Wars game, so you pretty much know what you're getting right out of the box. There's Jedi, there's Sith.
Jedi Knights.
They don't like each other.
And they fight.
Yeah,
that's the story.
They're not big fans of each other. So
no.
Do you want to talk about Audio Surf 2 real quick? We're over an hour and a half.
Yeah, I did want to mention it, but I think I'm going to get into that next time.
Okay.
Because we're running short on the time here. But
that'll
I do have
work.
something to say about that.
That'll let me do a little bit of research, because we're going to talk about rhythm games next time, because pretty much nobody is going to know this, but I played competitively rhythm games back when they were big.
I didn't know that, actually.
I
didn't know that about you.
I was in a competitive gaming clan that has several different divisions, and they had a division for rhythm games, which was like Guitar Hero and Rock Band, and I played the shit out of those games, basically. I was never I wasn't going to compete for money or anything. I won a laptop playing Guitar Hero, actually, locally here.
Well, that sounds very fascinating, and we'll definitely talk about it in our rhythm gaming episode.
Yes. So I don't know if the next episode's going to focus specifically on rhythm games.
This was supposed to focus on The Witcher, and that obviously went way off the fucking rail.
Well, so it did. We talked about The Witcher for an hour. So
was it an hour?
Yes.
I think it was less than half of the episode.
It was 55 minutes that we talked about The Witcher.
Jesus. Okay. Hey. All right.
I've got the timer in front of me.
We're definitely going to incorporate the rhythm gaming into the next episode.
And we'll continue to come back to The Witcher as we play through it and update our opinions. I don't think they're going to change that much, though. I don't think there's any kind of
cover the technical stuff.
I don't think they're going to make any huge faux pas in the story that's going to make me hate the game. So I'm not expecting anything less. I wouldn't, if I was rating The Witcher, I wouldn't give it a 10. It's definitely not a perfect game. but it is the best game I played this year.
Yep.
And I mean, it looks to be potentially the best game I'm gonna play this year.
Well, I think it's definitely a contender for Game of the Year. It's too
Yeah.
good to not show up on a lot of those lists, so that's,
Yep.
that's definitely going to be happening.
Yeah.
Whether it wins or not remains to be seen, of course, but it's going to be
So
up
far, it's my game of the year. Absolutely.
there. Yep. It's your Game of the Year to date.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's.
Me too.
I haven't played a lot of indie games. I'm a big indie gamer. I play a lot of like roguelike games and stuff, and I've
Yeah.
played a few of those this year, but there haven't really been that many that have pulled my interest. We'll talk about that another time too. I think we're gonna wrap it up here because we're at an hour 40. So
Not bad.
we went a little bit longer than we overshot the 30-minute estimate by just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
Just
So
about 69 minutes.
we apologize to anybody that was hoping this would be shorter.
Yeah.
But I think we'll probably try and not make a habit of this. But
I want to kind of stick to an hour max.
Yeah.
That feels like a good amount of
that
time.
seems it would be comfortable. Yeah.
Ideally, we'll hit that next time. So this is gonna. I'm uploading this. I'll say right now, a little behind the scenes. I'm not gonna have time to edit this, so I'm gonna just upload it straight right after we finish recording this.
Off the cuff.
And then when I get back from my week-long trip, I'm going to edit it and re-upload an edited version. I may cut some stuff if I feel like maybe some of the Witcher stuff was not really conducive to, like we talked about, like side quests and the quest complete sound. I'll probably leave that stuff in, but I might cut a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna shoot for an hour though, in general, and it's gonna look nicer than this. We're gonna get like a layout and stuff set up. We wanted to get this out while The Witcher 3 is still fresh, and for a week we're not gonna have a chance to record, so it was now or never basically.
Yeah, we didn't want to get into a rut of just planning and never actually doing it. So now we have our first episode done, and it's going to be out the
It's in the
door
books.
shortly, and
Yeah.
it'll be out there. So we have begun.
Yep. So I think that's all we had. Thanks for joining us on the Great Northern Game Night. We should have like a website and stuff up eventually too. We're working. That's all in the works right now. We're getting. Like,
We've already got the
logos
space
and
carved
stuff.
out.
Yeah,
and it's happening. That's
yep.
on the way.
You
for
can.
Sure.
I think it's.
Should we advertise it yet?
I think it's GNGN.org. It's going to be the
that's
website.
That's the URL.
There's a beautiful placeholder courtesy of me up right now, and check that out for updates. Also follow GNGN Podcast on Twitter. That is the Twitter account that I made for us. That's going to be the best place to go for updates, and that'll become more active once this is up because we'll have stuff to talk about. So. Thanks for joining us. We will see you guys not in a week. I'm hoping to make it weekly. We're going to have to skip a week, obviously, because I'm going to be out of town. But
Yeah, things happen.
all right, we're going to sign out. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks for watching, everybody.